Welcome to, welcome to East Tennessee Pinball. Working on this Globetrotters. Jane's done a great job cleaning and painting this thing up. Let me just show you real quick. This dude's hand was completely, all his whole hand there is repainted. Looks pretty great. You can't even really tell. I mean, you'd have to look really close. I mean, if you get in there real close, you might be able to tell. You can see the perimeter of the paint, the edge there, but I mean, you're sitting up here playing, you're not going to notice all those words there. She retyped those. If you look real close, you can tell it's not, she wrote them by hand, but it looks pretty dang good. So what we're going to talk about today is lamps and working on these lamp boards. So to get into the lamp test, you open the coin door and press this button one time. And that's going to pulse all the controlled lamps are going to be on and off. So they're all running on 6 volts DC. And you see on this game, there are a whole bunch of lamps that are not running. Those two, that one, that one, that one, that one, those two, that one. You know, there's one. A whole bunch are missing. So first thing I do, well, if there's one or two, I might just go ahead and pull the board there and check all these SCRs. They're basically like transistors, except they don't lock on. So you can just use a regular diode test. If you want to see what a diode test, there's lots of videos on YouTube to do show a diode test. Pull that board off, go to the back of the board, do a diode test on all these little SCRs. Or the connections between these three connectors. That's a point of failure. Or the sockets themselves are another point of failure. Or the bulb, you know. I just replaced all these bulbs. I've got new bulbs, and gosh, there's close to 1% failure rate right out of the box. So could be a lot of those things. But with this many bulbs, I'm suspect that it's something more serious. So the first thing I did was I wrote down, made a list of all the bad bulbs. Just put a label on them. Unfortunately, the label that I come up with is not going to be the same one from the manual. So here's the manual, the schematics. You have to do a little interpreting, but what I saw here right away was all of them are all in the same location, and if you trace these back, they all go to this U4 chip, which means almost certainly that U4 chip is bad. So I'm going to hold this thing up here next to it, next to the board. It's pretty much laid out the same. That U4 chip there at the bottom is that chip right there. So I've got some of these. I order them because these things go bad fairly often. I'm going to replace that chip right there, and we're going to see where we're at after that. There might be one or two left, but because I didn't go through my entire list, I just found that chip was bad, and I'm going to fix that, and then we'll see what we'll do the test again and see where we're at. So here's the board with the new chip in here. I went ahead and put a socket. It's always good to put a socket because the chip you put in there might not work either. Especially, I said I had a new one. I did not have a new one, so I ended up pulling this one from an old parts board I had. So even the new ones are probably new old stock. I mean, most of these chips like this, they haven't been made in decades. So it's always good to put a socket in there. So I'll throw it in here and see what happens. Well, here it is, and everything's fixed, except it's not. It's exactly the same it was. Well, I'm glad I socketed that chip, so I'll pull another one and throw another one in there and see if that fixes it, and we'll see how that goes after that. Okay, so I got the test running here again, the bulb test, and I see one bulb, this one right there, it's not working, but everything else appears to be running. Believe so, yeah. So I'll check the socket and the bulb. Could be the SCR, could be pin, but with just one left, it's not the chip anymore. That's for sure. Almost for sure. So it's very likely the bulb or the socket. So anyway, I'll stop the video here. Adios.